Dear students, let's start with part 3 of chapter Biomolecules. This is the presentation with which we will be able to complete the chapter today. So let's start with the topic vitamins. Vitamins are organic compounds which are required in our diet in small quantity to perform specific biological functions because they are required for normal maintenance of our body's growth and health. And the term vitamin, you can notice E here especially. They are This term was coined from the word vital and amine because earlier these compounds were identified, they had amino group in them, NH2 group, and later it was found that it is not necessary that vitamins should have amino group in them, so the letter E was dropped and now we use the term without E, vitamin. Most of the vitamins cannot be synthesized in our body, but plants can synthesize almost all of them. That's why it is very important to have plant products, and they are considered as essential food factors. So, the bacteria of the gut that can produce some of the vitamins required by us, but not all. Vitamins are designated by alphabets A, B, C, D, K, you must have heard of, and some of them are further named as subgroups. For example, B, vitamin B has these different forms B1, B2, B6. Excess of vitamins is also harmful, and the deficiency is also not good for the body. So, they are to be taken in the required amount as a part of balanced diet. Classification of vitamins. On the basis of their solubility in water or fat, they are classified into two categories, two groups. Fat soluble vitamins, vitamins that are soluble in fat and oils but not in water. They belong to this particular group. Vitamin A, D, E, K. These four types of vitamins are fat soluble, so they get stored in liver and adipose tissues, the fat storing tissues in our body. So we don't need to take them very regularly because once you take, they are in the body for a long time, they get stored in fat. But water soluble vitamins like B group and vitamin C, they are water soluble, that's why they get excreted readily from the body with urine, that they should be taken regularly in diet. It's a very important reasoning question. And out of four vitamins in B group, B12 does not dissolve in water, so except vitamin B12, remaining B1, B2, B6 and vitamin C, they are water soluble. Now the table is from NCERT as it is. You have to remember this. This is talking about vitamin and their sources along with the deficiency diseases. For example, vitamin A. The sources are fish liver oil, carrots, butter and milk. And the deficiency disease is xerophthalmia. That is basically hardening of cornea of eye. And night blindness is also one of the deficiency diseases because of vitamin A deficiency. Same way, you have to remember for vitamin of group B, C, D, E and K as given here. So this table is to be remembered as it is, and you can expect many questions out of it, mostly objective types. For example, vitamin C here, this is also called ascorbic acid. So we have to remember these names also. And we all know that vitamin C, it source citrus fruits, amla and green leafy vegetables. And if there is deficiency of this, then the problem scurvy, which is bleeding of gums, that occurs. Similarly, the name riboflavin for vitamin B2, the name pyridoxine for vitamin B6, we have to remember all this. And they can ask you the question by talking about a particular deficiency disease and then relate it to the name of the vitamin and ask you the sources or vice versa. So you have to remember the whole table properly. Nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, the next topic that we are discussing. You must have heard of DNA and RNA, very common terms. So these are polynucleotides. The term poly means, again, we are talking about a particular type of polymer. So polymers of nucleotides, they are also called, or polynucleotides, nucleic acids. So every generation of each and every species resembles its ancestors in many ways. So how is that possible? Because there is a genetic material. It has been observed that nucleus of a living cell is responsible for this transmission of inherent characters, and we also call it heredity. Chromosomes, you must have heard of chromosomes. They are made up of two types of biomolecules, proteins and nucleic acids. And these chromosomes are the particles present in the nucleus of the cell, which are responsible for this passing on of the information, genetic information, to the daughter cells when cell is dividing. So there are two types of polynucleotides that we are discussing now: deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, and ribonucleic acid, RNA. The chemical composition of nucleic acid, there are three components. If you see the structure here, the three components are nitrogenous base, then we'll discuss the structure. You have a 5 carbon sugar and you have a phosphate group. These are the three components. And if I take just two components out of these three, if I'm just talking about the nitrogenous base is written here, we'll go to the details in the next slide, and sugar, these two together, they are called nucleosides. And if phosphate linkage is also there, that means all these three components, then we call it nucleotide. And when many nucleotides join with each other to make a polymer, that is a nucleic acid. So you can say that nucleotide is the monomer and nucleic acid is its polymer. Now the components of nucleic acid we are talking about, you have sugar, ribose sugar here, that can be deoxyribose or that can be simply ribose. There is one difference in their structure. Try to find out. I'll be discussing it in the upcoming slides. And you have this different types of nitrogenous bases. There are 5 nitrogenous bases named adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine and uracil. If you are talking about DNA, then DNA has 4 bases. These 3, adenine, guanine, cytosine, are common, and along with them it has thymine. That means uracil is not there in DNA. And in RNA again you have these 3, adenine, guanine, cytosine, but in place of thymine you have uracil. So DNA and RNA both are having 4 nitrogenous bases along with a pentose sugar, 5-membered sugar, and phosphate linkage. Now see the structure carefully. If you are talking about sugar, this is the pentose sugar we were referring to, and here is the phosphate linkage. We have done the structure of pentose sugar earlier, cyclic structure, in the beginning of this chapter. This is of that type only, 1 oxygen and 4 carbons, and here the sugar is attached to nitrogenous base on this side. So these three components together, sugar attached to phosphate and nitrogenous base, they make one nucleotide. And in this slide, if you notice again, what is the difference between oxyribose and ribose sugar? See carefully on this carbon, which is the second carbon on the right hand side of the oxygen, there are 2 hydrogens. And in this case, in ribose, on this carbon you have one H and one OH. So you can say in case of deoxyribose, one oxygen is less on this carbon. That's why the name deoxy. And here in ribose you have normal H and OH on this carbon. Okay, we come back to the slide here. It's a repetition, just quickly we go through it. If you take, for example, this pentose sugar and this nitrogenous base together, just 2 components, you call it nucleoside. Here it is adenine sugar and pentose, so we call it adenosine. But if you take all the three components along with this, if you take phosphate group also, then these three together are called adenosine monophosphate. That is a nucleotide. So the difference between nucleoside and nucleotide is a nucleoside has only two components, pentose sugar and nitrogenous base. But in nucleoside, if you attach phosphate group also, it becomes nucleotide. The structure of a dinucleotide, di means two. So the two units, one here and one here, they are joining together. See how are they joining? Here this is the phosphate linkage, this, and this OH will condense with the third carbon OH. They will condense, and here will be the linkage with the third carbon and phosphorus, the linkage through this oxygen. From here H2O will be removed and one oxygen will be left, which is here. So this is how they link together and the dinucleotide is formed. If one more molecule comes, trinucleotide. Many molecules condense like this, you get a polynucleotide. Notice one thing here, the third carbon is getting condensed with the phosphate on the fifth carbon. This is very important to understand the double helical structure, which is coming in the slides after this. The information regarding the sequence of nucleotides in the chain of a nucleic acid, that is called its primary structure. And the nucleic acids, they have a secondary structure also, as one shown here in the diagram. This is called double helical model or double strand helix structure for DNA, given by Watson and Crick. The two nucleic acid chains, they are wound about each other and held together by hydrogen bonds. These A, T, G, C, these are nitrogenous bases and they can make H bond with each other. G, guanine is making a triple bond with cytosine and adenine is making a double hydrogen bond with thymine. You notice one thing here, that uracil is not here, as we discussed earlier, that in DNA uracil is not present. Out of 5 nitrogenous bases, these 4 ATGC are present. And how are they held together? By hydrogen bonding. Now the two strands are complementary to each other. Complementary means if on this side you see adenine in front of it, on the other side you will see thymine. If you find out thymine somewhere, you will get adenine getting bonded to it. Same way, wherever you have guanine, there has to be cytosine bonded to it, and wherever you have cytosine, guanine is bonded to it. So these are the bases, they make bond with each other like this, which is responsible for the double helical model. This is the meaning of being complementary to each other. This is a very common question asked in exams. The basic difference between DNA and RNA. In DNA, the sugar that we take is a deoxyribose, and in RNA it is ribose. We know the difference clearly now. In DNA, uracil is not present, thymine is present, and in RNA, in place of thymine, uracil is there. DNA has a helical structure, double stranded, you saw in the previous slide, but RNA is having single stranded structure. These are the basic difference between DNA and RNA. And in secondary structure of RNA, helices are present which sometimes fold back and they give the double stranded structure also, but it cannot be a double stranded structure like DNA. There are 3 types of RNA. This can also be a difference that DNA is of one type only, but there are 3 types of RNA, namely mRNA, messenger RNA. It carries the information from DNA in the nucleus to ribosomes in the cytoplasm. These are the components present in the cells. And rRNA, ribosomal RNA, it combines with protein to form ribosomes. And transfer RNA, tRNA, transfers amino acids to ribosomes to help them build proteins. So this is the sequence that is being followed. Message comes and then protein is synthesized and then it is transported. So each component has its specific role. The biological functions of nucleic acid, we all know it's the genetic material which carries the genetic information from one cell to the next cell in the next generation, and this is the chemical basis of heredity, you can say. The proteins are synthesized by various RNA molecules, but the message for the synthesis is coming from DNA only. And DNA is exclusively responsible for maintaining the identity of different species of organisms over millions of years. Like you must have heard of that using DNA, dinosaurs, when did they exist, all that was found. So, there for particular species, there is a specific DNA composition that can be found. Hormones, the last topic of the chapter. Hormones are molecules. They are produced by our endocrine glands and they act as intercellular messengers. The message is carried from one cell to another by these hormones, and the blood transports them to the site of action. They are directly released in the blood, and blood transports them to the site of their action in the body. Chemically, some of these are steroids like estrogen and androgens. Some are polypeptides. We know what are polypeptides now? Proteins, insulin, and endorphins. And some others are amino acid derivatives. They do not polymerize, but amino acids and their derivatives come in this category. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are the examples. These all are the examples of hormones. The two hormones, insulin and glucagon, very common. They work together and they regulate the glucose level in the blood. Insulin helps in lowering the blood glucose level, and glucagon helps in increasing the blood glucose level. So they work together in coordination and they maintain the level so that it does not rise too much or does not fall down too much and remain in the optimum required level by the body. Epinephrine and norepinephrines, they mediate responses to external stimuli. Any external stimuli, how the body will react to that, that is controlled by these hormones. Growth hormones and sex hormones, they play role in growth and development. We all know about this in general. Thyroxine, that is produced by thyroid gland in the body, and this is iodinated derivative of amino acid tyrosine. Abnormally low levels of thyroxine will cause a problem, hypothyroidism, and characterized by lethargy and obesity. If the level increases too much, then the level of thyroxine I'm talking about, then it causes another problem called hyperthyroidism. Hypo if the level is low and hyper if the level is increased. Then low level of iodine in the diet, that may lead to hypothyroidism, and it causes enlargement of the thyroid gland. Goiter you must have heard of. So this condition is largely being controlled by adding sodium iodide to commercially available table salt. We call that iodized salt. Steroid hormones, they are produced by adrenal cortex in gonads. For example, glucocorticoids, they control the carbohydrate metabolism in the body. That how carbohydrate takes part in different biochemical reactions taking place in the body. It modulates inflammatory reactions also, allergic reactions, and they are involved in reactions to stress also. The mineralocorticoids, they control the level of excretion of water and salt by the kidney. So if adrenal cortex does not function properly, then one of the results may be a disease called Addison's disease. It is characterized by hypoglycemia, that is weakness and increased susceptibility to stress. The person becomes very stressed, and the disease is fatal unless it is treated by glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. So these hormones are very important. If the quantity is very less in the body, then the person is treated. Hormonal treatment is given to the person. And hormones released by gonads, for example, testosterone, major sex hormone produced in males, and estradiol is the main female sex hormone. It's responsible for development of secondary, both of them are responsible for development of secondary characteristics in males and females respectively. Estradiol also controls the menstrual cycle in female, and progesterone is responsible for preparing the uterus for implantation of fertilized eggs. So these hormones have different functions, different kind of hormones, and they are very important. The balance in the level of hormone in the body, hormonal balance we call it, that is very important for proper functioning of the body. Now that completes the chapter. Thank you very much. And I will soon share with you a worksheet based on this chapter. Till then, you can go through the chapter from NCERT and do exercise and in-text questions in your register. Thank you very much.